Hey Changemaker, Holly Rustic here with Grant Writing and Funding, and I am here to help grow capacity, increase funding, and advance your mission, whether that be you with a nonprofit or as a freelance grant writing company, right? If you're a freelance grant writer, then you can really benefit from all the information that we provide on grant writing and funding. So if you want to go ahead and subscribe to all of the different things that we talk about, please subscribe below. Otherwise we're going to get right into it. We have a whole series right now on how to start a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So we're really focusing on the most popular types of nonprofit organizations. And today we're going to be talking about Articles of Incorporation. So I'm going to give you a streamlined 15 steps that you should include in your Articles of Incorporation when you're drafting them. You can also get a free download by clicking the link, and then that way you can be able to get a free download of the samples. So otherwise you can just take notes. That's fine too, whatever. But yeah, if you would like to do that, you can have that, and we have the full podcast that gives 30 minutes on breaking this all down. But I just want to keep this brief for you on YouTube and be able to break down the different steps that are required for Articles of Incorporation. And why do you need Articles of Incorporation? Well, you have to have them when you submit your 1023, when you're applying for your tax-exempt status for becoming and being, actually creating your status of being a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The other thing, so what do they do? So you have to have them because they're required from the tax officials, right? The agencies, but why you create them too and why they ask for them is because the Articles of Incorporation really act as your nonprofit's constitution, right? They really guide your board of directors, and they create some interesting information that you kind of need, and we'll go over that in the steps. Okay, so let's get into it. So right away, if you're looking at just number one, the first thing you can include on your Articles of Incorporation is your name. So you're going to have the name of your nonprofit organization. And once again, you need to make sure, I've talked about this in other podcasts and other episodes, but you need to make sure that that name is actually available to you because it might be trademarked. So you might say, oh, I think Samaritan's Purse is a really cool name, so I'm going to call my nonprofit that. Well, there's already a huge nonprofit out there called Samaritan's Purse. And maybe it's something really whimsical and you think no one would select this, but you never know. You have to check with your state. Usually this is your AG's office or your Rev and Tax, and just to make sure that that name is available for you to use. All right, so you have to have your name there, and that is going to be what you're officially going to be called. Number two, the second article, so that would be article number one is your name. Article number two is the purposes. What is the purpose of your nonprofit? So then you're including your activities. You're also including just kind of a generalized mission statement in that. You want to keep this very brief and very general. You don't want to segment it too much, because when you're doing fundraisers and stuff like that in the future, what the taxing agencies might look at is say, does this relate to your articles? Is this in line with your purpose? And if it's not, then they might not allow you to have this as a tax-free or tax-exempt income. So you really want to make sure you keep it pretty broad, but aligned with what you're actually formed to do. Article number three, the duration of your nonprofit. And most of the time I just say just keep it perpetual, because if you say 50 years or 20 years, then you will have to go and update your articles at that point in time. But you can just say perpetual. Article number four, the principal office. So this is very easy. You need to have a physical and a mailing address. And the physical address can be your house. Like if you're, might say, Holly, like there's three of us that are just starting a nonprofit on the side. It's not like we have a fancy office or anything like that. Like you don't have to be fancy, right? You can just use your house if you want. But you have to make sure you do have a physical and a mailing address. That can be the same thing too, right? As long as it's physical. Article number five, Inurement Clause. The Inurement Clause is basically, so what the heck does that mean? Okay, so it basically means that no part of the net earnings of a corporation shall inure to the benefit or be distributed to its members. So you don't want to have it any of the profits that are coming in, right? Because you are a business, even though you're a nonprofit, you may still be, you still need to be getting money in somehow. So they're basically saying in no part will that money go to the board members to benefit them, right? The trustees, the officers, or private persons. So I'm just kind of reading this to make sure I got the right language here. And just to make sure too, if you do render services through any of your board members or just through people that you use even, right? So if you have if you're renting from somebody, then you're actually giving a reasonable fair market value for your rent. You're not paying obscene prices just to benefit someone, kind of like backdoor. So it's kind of like those backdoor deals, and a lot of your articles are meant, and these are the things that you're putting in them, they're really meant so it's very clear and you're very transparent with what you do. So you have to make sure that any monies and any, if you're hiring for services, if you're getting products or that sort of thing, then it also meets the purposes set forth in Article 2, which once again was your purposes, right? So it needs to make sense and connect. So Article number 6 is the limitation on corporate activities. And this is very similar to inurement in some ways, but you just want to make sure that you're not, this is once again, no kickbacks, no weird backdoor things. So the corporation shall not carry out any other activities not permitted to be carried out by corporate. So if you're exempt, then you need to make sure that you're providing the right kind of exemption for different corporations. Example. You have a fundraiser, right? So you're going to give a tax deduction potentially to people who are buying, say you're having a big fundraiser, they're buying tickets for that, but they're not just buying tickets, they're actually being a sponsor. So they're paying more than the amount for the tickets that you're just selling potentially, right? They're not just paying the cost of the food, they're paying way more than that. You're also putting their logo on that, so you're calling them like a change agent sponsor, and they're going to go ahead and give you $5,000, for this event, that sort of thing. So you could give them a certain type of tax deduction for that. Now, if they're not really providing you any value, or their value isn't very, like it's not kind of itemized, then how are you going to be able to give them the right amount of tax deduction? You can't just give them a $20,000 tax deduction when they're giving you a $5,000 sponsorship. So you want to make sure there's limitation on corporate activities, and there's certain, the tax deductions fall in line. All right, limitation on political activities. So this is Article 7 that we're looking at. Limitation of political activities. As a 501c3, you are not lobbying. You are not promoting excessively different political campaigns or politicians or anything like that. Now, if you're a 501c4, C6, and you're actually a membership, if you're a Rotary Club, then you actually can, really advocate more for different policies and political kind of things, right? But as a 501c3, you cannot. And even when you're writing federal grants, you're going to see this a lot, that you actually have to form, you will not lobby. So they really want to make sure too that you're not set up on the whims of political candidates, but actually for causes. So you want to make sure you have language in your article stating that. Article number 8, liability and indemnity. All right, so first you want to look at non-liability of members. So your members should not be liable for the private property, right? This is a corporation you are setting up. It is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. So the corporation is then liable for any debts, anything like that, right? So if people, you can't really be, or you shouldn't, this is why you're kind of putting it in your articles to kind of protect yourself too, like as a member or as a board member, that I'm not being sued, but the nonprofit would be sued. Or if there's any kind of debts or anything from the nonprofit, then it doesn't go after my own house, right? So you want to make sure that is set up to protect you. So you want to make sure you have non-liability of members for individuals, and of course non-liability is indemnification of directors and officers. So that's your board of directors. And you just, same thing as a board member, you don't want your board members then, like, if something happens to your nonprofit going into debt or something like that, then the bank would go after your board of directors. So you want to make sure that does not happen. So in order for that not to happen, you can include that in your articles. All right, so article number 9, registered agent. And this is just basically where your communications will lie. This is often people use, if you have a lawyer, they'll use the lawyer's address, the name and the physical address. Oftentimes too, maybe a board director is the registered agent, and they can also make sure that they have their name and physical address, and that's as simple as it needs to be. But basically this is for contacting you and that sort of thing. To keep, you want to make sure it's going to be somebody that's not just like, oh, in for 6 months, assistant intern. Like, don't do that, right? Use something that is a little more founded, more stable. Okay, so article number 10, directors. So the board of directors, and this really varies by state. So once again, you can go to the website. You can go to, the website. I have some show notes on this Articles of Incorporation, so you can click and see different nonprofits around the state, so you know what are the requirements for your specific state. But more often what I see is no less than 3. Sometimes it's no less than 4. But no less than 3 or 4, and not more than 9, you can say. But there, you can say more than that. But you just want to be able to say, okay, how many people are you actually going to have on your board of directors? You want to make sure you at least have the minimum for your state, right? But you can also put a maximum-ish, and I'll show you why the ish. But you can put a maximum just to say, okay, this is how many board of directors we're going to have, and these are the types. But we're going to make sure that it's aligned with our bylaws. And we have the opportunity to add more if needed, up to a certain amount. So that's the ish part, right? And that's basically to say, just so you know what the structure, and like I said, this is your Articles of Incorporation are your constitution. So it's really setting you up with how many we're going to have. But you could say 3, not more than 9. I highly recommend keeping an odd number of board members, just because in case you're having a vote and there's a tie, right? You want some way to go ahead and to break any tie. I sometimes see the executive director can be a voting member in case there's a tie, that sort of thing as well. But just keep it odd, just to keep it simple. All right, and then you're telling how you're going to elect them as well. So you can list what the titles of those roles are. So the officer seats, so that would be the chair, the vice chair, the secretary, the treasurer. Maybe you have a marketing and public relations, so you would just list each one of those, and then who they are, what their names are, what the address is. So these are your founding board members you're putting in your articles. And then, of course, article number 11, corporate officers. So this is really outlining the officers of the corporation. Once again, you can say the chairman, the vice chair, the secretary, treasurer, any other office seats that you have. And then saying the corporation may have such additional officers as determined by the bylaws. So you just want to make sure you have that language in there so it's a little more flexible for you. Because maybe nowadays people are like, I need someone just for social media. Like, that wasn't there 10 years ago. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit, it keeps a little more flexible for you. And then just make sure you tell them how long that your board members are elected for. So many stagger their board elections. You could say 2 years, 5 years, however long, and how many office seats that they can hold. So maybe your secretary can also be your treasurer. I've seen this quite a bit, and that sort of thing. So you can just let them know how many office seats. Okay, article number 12, membership requirements. So just, talk about if you have what your members, how they're going to be accepted, discharged, expelled, and you could just relate this back to your bylaws and say we're going to follow our bylaws on this, but just make sure you kind of have it in there. Okay, so the next one, moving on. Sorry, I just had this open next to me so I can follow along here. Article number 13, and this is amendments. Very simple. These articles may be amended in the manner provided by statute at the time of amendment. So you basically keep it very, very open and broad that you can amend if needed. All right. So, and this is why you should look at your articles every year, especially when new board members come in. They should all look at these articles so they understand what the constitution is of your nonprofit. And you can see why. They'll be like, oh, okay, there's this many board members. We're in for this long, blah, 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 like what we've already gone over. Then they'll have an understanding of how your nonprofit operates. Okay, article number 14, dissolution. Now, if and when you dissolve, right, or when you terminate your nonprofit, if you do so, you need to have a plan of action. So this is really important to have in your articles. So you could just say, and you might think, we'll never dissolve. This is going to go on forever. Well, it may not. And you really need to have your contingency plan built into place, because what happens to the assets and the resources when you dissolve? And that's basically what you have to put in here. So a lot of times nonprofits will use this kind of language, and I'll just go ahead and read this, that have the debts and liabilities of the corporation. So upon termination or dissolution of the name of the corporation, any assets remaining after payment or provision for payment of all debts and liabilities of the corporation shall be distributed to a nonprofit fund, right, foundation, or corporation which is organized and operated exclusively for purposes which have established its tax-exempt status under 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. So basically you're just saying, hey man, if we dissolve and we're going to give, so all of a sudden we have a thrift store or a child care center and we have all of this, these clothes or this, stuff for kids, and what are we going to do with it, right? So now that we're dissolving. Well, we're going to look at our articles, and our articles say that we have to give these to another nonprofit that has 501c3 tax-exempt status under the federal IRS code. So you could say, okay, we have other partners at, the child care centers, and you could donate those goods there, right? Now, moving over to the next part of this dissolution, so another point under this, you could say, if this corporation holds any assets on trust, such assets shall be disposed of in such manner as they may be directed by decree of the Superior Court of the state. So you're looking more at not just clothes, right? Baby stuff, but now we're moving into property, larger assets. So what's going to happen to those? And, in some cases, and I kind of talk about this too, is why would they want this in here? Well, a lot of people, in the past, if they didn't have this in here, they might have just started a nonprofit, had some kind of way to make it tax deductible to buy property, and then just dissolved it and kept it personally, right? So this is also to, detour kind of like fraudulent activity, if you will. So you're basically saying, if we have anything, then we're going to go to the court and it's going to be dispersed and blah, 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 like it's going to be taken care of. So this is, something that we are setting up to be in the long road, but we need to have this contingency in place. 15, incorporators. And this is just the end. So here we are, number 15. All right. So the name and residence of all persons forming the corporation as followed, and then you're going to list the names and the addresses, and then you have to take this, you all have to go then, bring your IDs, go to a notary and sign in front of the notary and have this notarized. Then you can be able to submit this in your 1023 packet. So there are your 15 things that you should really include in your Articles of Incorporation when you're developing them. And if you would like a free download of these that go into more detail of all this, please follow the link below and check me out. If you like this YouTube channel, and we have other stuff coming out every week, we're going to start to really build it up a lot more, so please subscribe. And you can also listen to us on iTunes at Grant Writing and Funding. All right, guys, thanks so much, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.